my Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1459 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. The Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team, the best baseball in the city, outside the dome, with Rod Black's mustache returning for the home opener at Christie Pitts on May 12th. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd is FOTM Kevin Shea. Welcome back, Kevin.
Thank you, Mike. So good to be back here.
It's great to see you. Let's tell the listenership. So we're changing things up on the fly here because I'm even looking at my intro, which is scripted out. It's like the only part of Toronto Mic'd I script out is that intro. And it says, today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut is Jason Wilson. So what's going on? Where's Jason?
Jason's tied up. He's doing some music right now, so he's tied up, and we'll have to make an appointment to see you another time, Mike.
I bet you're used to musicians being tied up with their music. Like, I bet you this was your life for decades.
Yeah, it's hurry up and wait no matter where you go when you're a promotion representative in the music industry.
I'll bet. I bet you got you got to, I don't know, I'll make this up and tell me how close I am. I got to get Motley Crue to, I don't know, Much Music or something for 4 p.m. or something. You're herding cats now. Like, these musicians are everywhere. They're doing this, they're doing that. You've got to get them to a place at a certain time. That's a tough living.
So that's probably the best example you could come up with. Oh my goodness. So we spent the day doing media together, and it was going quite well. We split them up so that two of them did Much Music and some other television, and I took care of radio interviews back at their hotel. And I had Mick Mars and who did I have?
Who'd you have?
Mick Mars and I think it was Tommy. I could be mistaken.
Tommy Lee.
Yeah, I think it was, but no, it wasn't. It was Mick Mars and Nikki Sixx.
Okay.
And so we had a great day. They did the interviews. There was all kinds of adventure in between. But anyway, they said, you're effing awesome. And they didn't use effing. You're effing awesome, dude. So they said that 4,000 times. And I was feeling pretty good about myself as a promo rep and feeling good for the tour that we put together, or at least the agenda we put together.
Is this Dr. Feelgood era? Where are we here in the...
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What an album.
Yeah.
Loved it. Okay.
So we made plans to have dinner together, and Tommy had returned by this point, and he said, oh, we got to go to Yorkville. That's what Leather Heather says. And I'm thinking, Leather Heather?
Heather.
Oh, Heather Locklear. Oh, of course. There we go. So
right.
She knew the restaurants, and she said that's the place to go. So I said, okay, you guys freshen up, do what you do, and I'll see you back here at 6. Well, I came back at 6 and there's no band. And I came back at 6:10, 6:15, 6:30, 7, whatever. And finally the lady at the front desk said, are you looking for the band? And I said, yeah, I am. Yeah. And she said, they weren't supposed to tell, or I'm not supposed to tell you, but they bolted. Oh, okay. Okay. So I went to Yorkville very quickly trying to find them. No luck there. But I knew that I had a midnight interview with Joey Vendetta on Q107 in the Power Factory.
Right.
It was his very, very first show ever, and to land Motley Crue was just
This is Joey Vendetta's first Q show?
Not his first Q show, but his first Power Factory show.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's great. So I'm trying to find them. I keep going back between the hotel and downtown and the Q107 building, which was the Hudson Bay building at the corner of Yonge and Bloor, Yonge and I guess it was Yonge and Bloor. And I keep going and I can't find them. I have no idea So here we are. It's about 10 to midnight, and I still haven't found them. I'm about to go up the elevator to tell Joey that I don't have them. I'm sorry and apologize profusely.
You're clueless.
But yeah, exactly. I pull in front of the Hudson Bay Center, and sure enough, there's hundreds and hundreds of kids. And I was with the driver of the limousine at the time that was supposed to escort them, and the kids are crawling all over the limousine, and they're scratching it and going on. They think the band's there, and I get out wearing a jacket and tie with a briefcase,
looking like Kevin Shea.
Yeah, there we go. And it was Heaven. It was the rock club there, and so I thought, I wonder if they might have gone. Yeah, exactly, Rock and Roll Heaven. And so I thought maybe they're there. So I went, and the security guys, "Hey, where do you think you're going?" I said, "I'm here with the band." And the way I looked, I guess they figured he wouldn't be coming to party. That's for sure. Took me into the private room, and there were the boys, and they were totaled.
They were blitzed.
They were.
Blotto like Otto.
They had what they called the surf Nazis, who were supposed to keep them from drinking, but the surf Nazis hadn't done a very good job that night. And so we got talking. "Oh, you're effing awesome, Shea. Oh, you're great." I mean, "Oh, great. Thanks. Hey, listen, guys, we've got an interview in 10 minutes up at Q107 upstairs." And
is that Young and Norton you had to get them to?
No.
Oh, they were there at Rock and Roll Heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they looked at each other, and their faces dropped, and they realized they were in no shape to do an interview. But anyway, they said, "Let's go." So the surf Nazis propped them up in the elevator, and up we went. And Joey had meanwhile started the show and said, "Sorry, everybody, but they've let me down. They're gone. They're not going to be here today. And those asses." And they went on. And sure enough, I kind of tap on the door ever so gently, and "Joey, I got the band here." "What? Get in here right away." So we put them in, and for the next 4 hours, they told tales of debauchery and did all kinds of things that I can't even talk about on the podcast. But
anyway, that's a podcast before podcasting.
There
right?
we
like
go.
4-hour deep dive, all the dirt.
It was supposed to be 20 minutes, and it turned out to be 4.5 hours. Christy Knight was supposed to follow Joey on the air,
right.
and I had tried to stop them so many times that they lured Christy and I into the library to show them some releases, and they locked the door. The surf Nazis locked the door so that we couldn't stop the band from telling their stories after that. So all we could do was sit and listen and go from there. So that's one of those babysitting moments that
Do you think that's where Jason Wilson is right now? He's getting blitzed. Here, so let's talk a little about Jason.
Sure.
Since this is actually was going to be his Toronto Mike debut.
Right.
Then it just so happens, as you can imagine, I've got plenty of Kevin Shea questions. They just build up over the years, and I got to remind people when you've been on before. But you mentioned Christy Knight, KK. So I got a note from her because I've been trying to get her to make her Toronto Mike debut for quite some time. And I think this is kind of sad, and it kind of speaks to the state of radio, but she has left the industry. Like she's decided that radio is too toxic an environment for her, and she has left the industry. And I think as we speak, she's looking for different way to make a livelihood outside of radio. But I think it's kind of sad to hear somebody like Christy Knight deems that there's no role for her in radio in 2024.
It's really sad. She's such a wonderful lady. She was a terrific communicator on the air as well. And we keep in touch. She's a dear friend as well. Actually, I was going through some bins and trying to downsize a little bit, and I found an RCA jacket with Nipper the dog on the back. And I said, "Listen, do you want this by any chance?" "Are you kidding me, Shea?
Wow.
Send it over."
Where are my gifts?
There we go.
Oh, yeah, actually, you did give me a gift. So let me tell. Okay, so Kevin Shea, and tell the people like how many you printed and who this was for, but it's called 100 Grades of Shea, which is a very clever title. And am I right? You made a book just for personal friends and family to commemorate your 65th birthday, and this is like 100 of your greatest stories?
Yeah, 100 stories for 100 friends and family members. It was my gift to them for years and years of friendship.
It's beautiful, but you spent this much time documenting 100 stories, which, by the way, tells me there's 100 episodes of Toronto Mike in you, so you'll be back. But why not make it available to the public and go on a PR tour and promote this book? You've got great stories.
But
100 people got this. I'm one of the 100 apparently. Maybe I'm the 101st.
No, you're one of the 100. I only had 100 printed. But see, I don't have the marquee value that a musician or an actor or whatever has.
Well, you're not Geddy Lee.
That's for sure.
But you have the stories. That Motley Crue story right there was great.
Well,
You were
it just
there.
was my gift and just a way to put some of the memoir down and
Well, thank you,
chronicle
because
it.
I'm
There
going to
we
go through it, and then I'm going to take notes on the ones I need to follow.
Well, you'll enjoy the Motley Crue
questions.
story in there. It's better told in the book there. So. Yeah, Christy's a longtime friend, and it's really sad that her career has come to an end. She was terrific on Q107, on Hits FM,
Hits
et cetera, et cetera.
97.7, absolutely.
Exactly. And so we keep in touch. I know that she's looking at different career possibilities, but she would be wonderful to get in here as well.
Well, I'm working on it, Kevin. Keep
I'll mention it to her next time I'm talking to her.
nudging her. Okay, so Jason Wilson, I'm going to read the bio. This is the bio on his website. So this has been, you know what it's like when you write your own bio, right? It's that's not what the real talk is about, but I'm going to read it. Jason Wilson is an award-winning Scottish-Canadian musician, best-selling historian, and television personality. An important figure in the Canadian reggae music scene, Wilson is a 2-time Juno Award nominee, a Canadian Reggae Music Award winner, a 4-time Reggae Music Achievements Award nominee, and was the first recipient of the Carl Mullins Award for commitment to Canadian reggae. In 2021, Wilson's Ready to Be Loved... Hey, I can play it while I talk about it here. Because this is all, we're making this up as we go along. Ready to Be Loved. Let me just put that in the background here. We'll get back to that. This song in the background topped the Canadian reggae charts. It was produced by Carl Harvey, band leader to Toots and the Maytals. Harvey, who also co-produced Wilson's Ashara album, which only came out last year. I had songs from that I was going to play with Wilson as well, is the eldest brother to Rupert Harvey of Messenger and to Richard, Jason's best friend from his high school days, who passed away in 1986. Wilson's book, King Alpha's Song in a Strange Land, The Roots and Roots, I see what you did there, Jason, very clever, of Canadian reggae, won the Ontario Historical Society's Joseph Brant Award in 2022. Let's listen to a little bit here.
To be loved, the spirit of the Cape by the hearth of the mixed blood. Are you ready? Ready to be loved, to be loved.
So tell me, Kevin, how do you know Jason Wilson?
It ties everything together, Mike. So, and I'm gonna bring up a couple of names that have already been mentioned as well. But
Yep.
I oversee the publications for the Hockey Hall of Fame, and one of them is called Legends Magazine. Comes out every year. So one of the stories that I wanted to pursue was the parallel lives of hockey and music and how they intersect through the years as well. So I thought that would be great to get Jim Cuddy from Blue Rodeo to talk about his hockey pursuits and his hockey loves, and Tom Cochran with Big League, and Gord Downey or Gord Sinclair from the Tragically Hip, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I was just looking around for some others as well. Just there's so many who
I could collaborate with you on this. Every time I have a musician in here, we end up talking a little hockey, I feel.
It's true. It's amazing how much intersection there is. So I talked to Cam Carpenter, who was an FOTM as well,
Yes,
and I
sir.
said, Cam, by any chance, at that point he was doing his own publicity company. I said, do any of your clients, are they hockey guys at all? And he said, you got to talk to this guy, Jason Wilson. He's got a reggae album out and whatever. So, I said, sure, sounds good to me. So I talked to Jason and found that he was had a really curious history and was a really wonderful guy. Here's his parents are from Scotland. He's a white gentleman who grew up in the Keele Street region that was very much a black area, a neighborhood at the time. So he grew up with his parents' influence of Scottish folk and with the reggae influence from his neighborhood as well. And he does a really interesting mix of the two styles, as well as his folk music, as well as a little jazz in there too. He's a terrific musician. So we ended up doing the article, and it worked out so well that we became dear friends as well. And so at one point I was doing the biography of Lord Stanley, who donated the Stanley Cup.
Of course.
And Jason's history background, he's got a degree in Canadian history, I thought would lend beautifully to my hockey instincts. And so we wrote the book together and won a couple of awards for that book, Lord Stanley, The Man Behind the Cup. Then later on we did a a book together about a J.P. Bickle, who was one of the financial geniuses behind the forming of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Jason was the principal writer on that one, and I did much of the research. But I guess our modus, our best, our zenith, I guess, was the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club Centennial publication, 1917 to 2017, and it's the definitive history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we wrote that together, and again won some awards on that. So
amazing.
So he's a musician first and foremost, and the hockey side of things. He also teaches hockey. You'll talk hockey from.
We'll get him in here. So let the listenership know. Jason Wilson will at some point make his Toronto Mike debut. We'll talk about, and I love talk. I just had Jay Douglas in here. I just had a gentleman in here named Kevin Howes, who put together a great compilation called Jamaica to Toronto, about these great Jamaican artists we have in our own backyard, who are kind of, some of their music has been almost lost, like underappreciated, and he's shining a light on them. I'm very keen to talk to, we all know Scotland, hotbed of reggae, right? This is
yeah.
The birthplace of reggae, I understand, is Scotland. So I'm very interested. Now, again, I can't wait to meet Jason, but I did read one criticism that only at the Junos are all your reggae nominees white guys, right? I know it's just we got to talk real talk here, but to be discussed with Jason Wilson, absolutely. Can't wait to have that conversation. But here, to let the listenership know, Kevin, we first met each other in February 2017.
Oh wow!
Let me do a little math on that. That's 7 years ago. 7 years ago. That's amazing. Okay. It was episode 216, kind of early days, because we're almost at 1500 here. In this episode 206, all right, I'm going to read what I wrote at the time. In this 216th episode, Mike chats with Kevin Shea about his years working with Weird Al Yankovic and Motley Crue, selling Smells Like Teen Spirit to Radio, and the legend of Bill Barilko in glorious blue and white detail. So we really dove deep into the legend of Bill Barilko, because I kind of knew you primarily at the time. I knew you as a hockey guy, like a guy who would be documenting Barilko stuff and working with the Hall of Fame. And then I sort of started to pull at these threads and realized, oh, that's actually not the most interesting thing about Kevin Shea, okay? And then I learned about Attic Records. And then in July 2022, you returned with Steve Waxman. And here's what I wrote for that return visit. In this 1083rd episode of Toronto Mic'd, Mike chats with Kevin Shea and Steve Waxman about their years babysitting musicians for record labels and what they witnessed. And we talked for almost 2 hours that day. So I'm glad to get you back, because there's so much to cover. We're going to do a solid hour, and I've got some questions that came out of a recent episode, and also something that came out of the recent Juno Awards. So we're going to cover some fun ground here. You ready, Kevin?
I'll just follow your lead.
Follow my lead. By the way, you work a lot, of course, closely with the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team. I have a beautiful book, history book about the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball.
I know, it looks amazing.
It's yours.
Oh,
that's
all right.
So you gave me a book. I'm giving you one. So that hardcover book.
Thank you very, very much.
It's really great. Rob Butler was here yesterday, who manages that team.
And a great guy. So I run an event, or used to run an event called Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer.
Yes.
And he was one of the celebrities who would come out and play with us as well. And he's just a fabulous guy. And just the fact that he was a world champion for the Toronto Blue Jays.
The World Series,
amazing.
yeah. He was on the field when Joe Carter touched them all.
Amazing.
And I believe this is kind of a wild fact to me that we're almost at episode 1500. I believe Rob Butler is the first former Blue Jay to be on Toronto Mic'd. I think that's the first one.
Jeez.
I know, isn't that weird? I think that's strange. But I do have Joe Carter coming up.
Oh, wow.
Thanks to Rod Black. So we're all over the place. But I do want to let you know, Kevin, because I know you're a fan of history and sports and the other Leafs. I'm sure you love your Toronto Maple Leafs baseball too. I'm here to tell you that on May 12th, a bunch of us, including me, we're all going to come out to Christie Pitts for the home opener. It's at Christie Pitts, 2 p.m., May 12th. A whole bunch. I mean, Steve Pakin's going to be there. Mark Hebscher's going to be there. Rick Emmett from Triumph.
Jeez.
This is all going to come back to Attic.
Yeah.
You watch. Okay, we're going to be connecting all the dots here today. Rod Black, of course. Some former Leafs are going to be there. Who I was told Rick Vive is going to be there. Rick Vive's going to be there.
This is amazing.
This is amazing. And, of course, I'm going to get Stephen Brunt there, coming all the way from Hamilton. So it's going to be amazing. Blair Packham's going to be there from the Jitters. Okay, it's all about the Jitters here. May 12, 2 p.m., Christie Pitts. be there.
I've just noted it, and
It's in your
I will
calendar.
do what I can. Here we go.
Even Jane Harbury's going to be there,
Oh,
and this
my.
is going to tie into the guest I want to talk to you about, and I pulled a clip. But before I talk about my episode of Bob Roper, tell me about this jacket that you helped secure for Felix Potvin back in the day. I follow you on social media, and you were teasing the story, and I saw a photo. So tell me about it. The cat, Felix Potvin, the goaltender from those great runs in 93 and 94. I'm looking at a picture of Wendell Clark from that era right now. Tell me about getting a jacket for Felix.
It wasn't a jacket. It was a guitar.
Okay, you know what? I wrote Felix Potvin jacket. It was a guitar. It's a better story.
Even better.
Okay.
So another friend of Toronto Mike is Bruce Barker.
Yes.
And Bruce Barker he quite often would bring me to Toronto Maple Leaf practices on Saturday morning, and through that got to know, I'd bring some CDs, and there's Gilmore, and there's Potvin, there's Wendell, and various guys
Dave
there.
Ellett's there.
Absolutely.
Jamie McCowan.
So I got to know the guys a fair bit, and I got to know Felix fairly well. And one day he said, listen, is there any chance that you can get me a guitar? Now, he was really into punk and hard rock at that time,
right.
Metal. And I was giving him all those releases that came on Roadrunner and Metal Blade Records and things of that sort. So I said, well, I have no connections to the music industry that way, but let me see what I can do. So I contacted my guy down at Roadrunner Records and said, look, do any of your musicians have a guitar deal where they might be able to get a guitar that they can trade with Felix Potvin? He says, are you kidding me? I'd love to get one for you. Let me see what I can do. So he came back a couple of weeks later and said, the lead guitarist from Sepultura has got a guitar deal,
wow.
and he will get you a guitar for Felix Potvin, but in return, he wants tickets to a New York Rangers game where the Leafs are playing.
Right.
He wants a game-worn jersey, and he wants an autographed hockey stick. And for helping you out, I would like an autographed stick as well. I said,
right.
well, let me see what I can do. So made the deal with Felix. He says, yeah, I can get you all that stuff. That's great. So it took a while, took an awful long time. I think Felix expected it next week, and it didn't happen that quickly. In fact, it took months to get it. And every time I'd see him, I was a little shy about even venturing into the arena, Maple Leaf Gardens at the time, and because Kevin, where's my guitar? I said, it's coming. But I had no idea, and I kept talking to my contact at Roadrunner, who said, yeah, I got it. It'll be there shortly. Finally, he called and said, it's at customs at the airport. Go pick it up, Kevin. There you go, and let's get this whole thing executed. So I picked up the guitar and opened it, and it was unbelievable. Beautiful guitar. Wow. And it was signed by every metal, punk, hard rock guitarist that I could think of. Wow. And some that I couldn't read, and some that Eric Clapton, and just there was everybody.
Eric Clapton's on there.
Yeah, had signed the black lacquer guitar.
Wow.
So next time I saw Felix, he said, "Have you got the guitar?" I said, "I do. I've got the guitar." And I handed it to him, and he opened the case, and oh my God, this is amazing. He picked it up and played a couple of rudimentary chords and said, "Oh, thank you, that's great." I said, "Okay, I'm going to tell the guys that you'll take care of them for tickets." Yep, I'm going to get tickets for your friend and for the guitarist and from Sepultura, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, great. So I did that and put it all together, and then I went back maybe a month or so later. I don't know if it was that long, and I saw Felix at the next practice that I went to, and Felix, how's the guitar? He said, "Oh, it's amazing, but it took me forever to sand the names off the guitar." I said, "What?" Well, it turns out the guitarist from Sepultura had couriered at his own cost all around all around North America, maybe even Europe, to get people to sign it for Felix. And it was
amazing.
Signed by 40 different guitarists. And Felix had sanded them off. He didn't like the look of
Oh my God, Kevin, that story is too good to be true. Imagine that. It took all that time to sand off those autographs.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, Kevin.
I will never tell the guy from Roadrunner, for he thinks that Felix is still playing that guitar. But anyway.
Can you imagine, you drop, I'm not a big metalhead, but some of these iconic guitar heroes, that autograph is priceless.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Okay. Speaking, you dropped the name Jim Cuddy earlier in this conversation. We got to go to the main spots, I realized, because I realized you alone I could do a 4-hour Motley Crue-esque conversation here. But this song...
Don't tell me I'm wrong, 'cause I've been watching every move
my question, Kevin, off the top is, did you listen to the Bob Roper episode of Toronto Mind?
Oh, I sure did. It was outstanding. I really enjoyed it. Bob is a longtime friend. He was working in the artist and repertoire department of Warner's when I was there as the national promo guy. And our department was quite small. There was just a handful of us. It was, the company had divided itself just internally. So there was the international side of things, which took care of the international labels. And Kim Cook was the national promotions for that side. And I was the national promotions guy for the domestic international side, which was affiliated labels from Europe, but also the Canadian signings as well. So it was Blue Rodeo, Brighton Rock.
You know, I'm doing a Brighton Rock deep dive.
Really?
Isn't that, it's in the schedule.
Really?
Yeah, who's the main guy from Brighton Rock?
Well, Jerry McGee, who's passed away.
Okay. Who else? Who's not passed away? Shout out
Oh
to
my
Ruby
goodness!
Funeral Home.
So there's John Rogers. There's. I mean, I could.
I'll get to the name in a minute here, but continue. But there is a Brighton Rock.
Greg
episode.
Fraser, probably.
That's it. It's
yeah,
Greg.
he was the guitarist. Yeah.
Greg Fraser is in the calendar to do a
Perfect.
Brighton Rock
Oh,
deep
some
dive.
good stories there too. Ask him about Monica Schnarr.
Okay, look, I'm taking a note right now,
There you
Monica.
go.
So I'm taking a note. That's great. Now, I'm not going to totally Robert Lawson. That's what we call when we fact check, okay? We Robert Lawson thing here. I've got to get to the Greg Fraser part of my Google Doc here. Monica Schnarr. Okay. I've got it in the I'm going to talk to Greg Fraser about Monica Schnarr. Absolutely. She's somebody I had an opportunity to have her on Toronto Mike via Zoom, and I took a pass, and I just feel like I want Monica in the basement. Is that selfish of me?
No, and it's not at all. She's a lovely, lovely lady. She helped out with this Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer event as well.
Oh, good.
But she was involved with, I'm making it sound more scurrilous than it was, but she was involved with Brighton Rock's
Well, I'm going to find
video,
out. Maybe
One More Try.
Oh, I can imagine. Michelle McAdory, who I'm actually looking her album's right here because she dropped by. She was involved in this band right now, so it's all coming full circle. Michelle McAdory, of course, in the video for Try. Let's just correct the record here. So I had Bob Roper on, and we talked about, Blue Rodeo. They didn't sign at first, and then they signed, and blah, blah, blah. We got a couple of details wrong, right? Because I know in that, I'm hearing in real time from Bob Roper, he talks about 2 singles coming out before Try. But Kevin, you were there. That's not true, right? Try is the second single released by Blue Rodeo, right?
Right. Well, it was... So traditional thinking is that you put out 2 up-tempo tracks or somewhat up-tempo tracks, and you come back with the ballad as track number 3. That was the template at Once Upon a Time. But with Blue Rodeo, they insisted on going with the track first. And we weren't sure that was the right way to go. We didn't know if it was radio friendly enough, and sure enough, when we delivered it to radio, they told us it wasn't radio friendly enough.
And that's called Outskirts.
Right,
That's
Outskirts.
the song Outskirts. Okay.
Great track, the title track to that album,
Right.
the debut album. And
So it sinks like a lead balloon here. You can't get any traction from Outskirts.
yeah, one radio station played it. It was an important one, Chum FM. They played it in a day-parted role.
Okay, and we need to disclose something, right? Of course, one of the announcers at Chum FM was married to the band's drummer.
Right, Ingrid Schumacher was married to the drummer of the band, and we got some great support from Chum FM, but that was it. We couldn't get radio to play that track no matter what we did. Maybe some college play, I'm not sure, but as far as mainstream radio play, it just didn't come up at all. So we started to panic. We thought, okay, what do we do now? And we knew that the track, when the band played live, when Blue Rodeo played live at the Horseshoe and other places, the main track was Try, the song that you just played.
This one right here.
Absolutely. It was the magic song. It's the one that everybody demanded. And so we talked about it internally, and the band insisted as well that Try be the next single. And so we girded our loins and thought, okay, we'll go. Now, we mounted a really strong marketing plan as well, but the great news was that Jim was able to call in his favors, as Bob talked about on the podcast, and he was working at a film company at the time, and he got all kinds of friends and equipment to help him make a video for Try. And Much Music came to the party and added it into heavy rotation with no radio play. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
With no radio play, they added it into heavy rotation.
Right.
Radio stations started playing it, but then with the influx of Much Music's penetration across the country, it just became a monster hit. And you mentioned that Michelle McAdory she appeared in the video, and she was wonderful that way. It was a great video. And so
she was dating Greg Keeler.
Right, exactly.
See, this all about and Ingrid Schumacher, a great FOTM herself, long time. I think she spent over 4 decades at Chum FM, but it was Cleve Anderson was her husband at the time. And then the great story is that Cleve, at the time, he chose a career with Canada Post, and he left Blue Rodeo for a career at the post office, essentially. But at that time, Try, that's him on drums. It's funny because we're gonna come to Rush. We're gonna talk a little Rush in a moment here, but Rutsey was the original drummer, and he's the drummer who you hear on Working Man. There's Neil Peart doesn't join until the next album, but we'll get to that in a minute. Stick with Blue Rodeo here for a minute. So when I talked to Bob Roper, he remembered it incorrectly, and this happens. Shout out to Robert Lawson. So he remembered Rose-Colored Glasses as being released before Try. But you, as the promotion guy there at the time, you know that's not true. The fact is, Rose-Colored Glasses was the third single, and Try was the second single.
That's exactly right. And the way that it went, too, and the band insisted, and it worked out really well, was that one Jim Cuddy song, one Greg Keeler song, one Jim Cuddy song, et cetera, et cetera. So the Rose-Colored Glasses track was a Greg Keeler track, and it followed Try and did very, very well. It certainly had the momentum of Try before it. A good song on its own as well, and we did very well, and the album went on to great heights as far as sales and radio play and helping break the band.
Now, you know I love to cover the ongoing history of CFNY. Mm-hmm. See, it is all coming back to Rush because Spirit of Radio is
right,
great.
yes.
It's all coming back to David Marsden. Okay, so that album, Outskirts by Blue Rodeo, which breaks when Try becomes a big hit in this country, not played at all by CFNY, right? They didn't touch that album.
No, it was, I think, too mainstream for what they were doing at that time.
Was it too mainstream or too country?
Well, maybe. When I say mainstream, mainstream as far as other radio formats. And that's exactly right. So, I mean, we tried. There were other tracks that we tried to introduce as well. Not singles, but other tracks from the album, but had no success that way. But it turned out to be an AOR, album-oriented rock favorite, an adult contemporary AC track, and a top 40 hit as well. Certainly I'm talking about Try, and then later with Rose-Colored Glasses.
Now I need to talk about the next album, because my all-time favorite Blue Rodeo song is Diamond Mine. And in the way I listen to Diamond Mine is that big part in the middle, that because it's a long song, right?
Right.
I don't have it in front of me, but it's a long song. I wish it was longer. I just wish that part would keep going, kind of like Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird, okay? Let's stretch this thing. So, CFNY, did they play Diamond Mine?
I don't recall, Mike.
You don't recall. Okay, you're tapping out there. Okay, so...
But can I tell a story about that album, too?
Well, yes, because I want to hear... Because Bob Wiseman is an FOTM.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So he's playing long in the middle there. And you tell me your story, and then... Let me know how the hell you got that played on radio, and I'll find out how long it is. Go ahead.
Okay. So the band insisted that Diamond Mine, the title track for the second album, be the first single. And as the promotion guy, I thought, oh my God, my sensibilities are that, first of all, it's way too long, but I'm just not sure that it's a great radio track. Well, I was actually quite wrong, but of course there were a few things that we manipulated to help that way. So as far as the single goes, so we had an edit done where Bobby's middle portion was taken out.
8:18. Okay, on the album Diamond Mine, the single Diamond Mine is 8 minutes and 18 seconds long. That is long.
Well, we took out the middle portion, and even though it was whatever it was at that point, on the single release, we put 397, so that radio thought that it was under 4 minutes long, but in fact it was probably more 4:57 or something like that.
Well, yeah, how dumb are people in radio? I mean, because there's 60 seconds in a minute. People are getting fooled by this.
Well, and it was a disc. It was vinyl at that time as well. But the most important thing is the video.
Yeah.
The video, first of all, the band shot it at a abandoned movie theater just off the Danforth. Donlands Theater, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong about that. Okay. But anyway, they loaded the equipment in and they recorded it off the floor that way, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful album. We went by several times to watch as they recorded. And then they shot the video, and it was shot in color. And then something happened in the processing where the color was extracted from the video. And we were going to scrap it entirely, but somebody took it. I think it was Dave Tollington from our office at Warner's, took it to Much Music just to show them what would you do with it, and they loved it the way it was. They loved the video so much, even though it was going to be scrapped at one point entirely. And so the Diamond Mine video, again, being supported by Much Music, was a great lead for rock radio. And then later on, we got Top 40 radio as well. So it was a great story. By that point, Cleve had left the band, and there was a gentleman named Mark French who was playing drums at that point. He had come from a band with a great name, the Streetwalkin' Barbies. And
then Mattel sent them a cease and desist.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Mark was the drummer on that album. He didn't last beyond that album, but he was the drummer on that album following Cleve's leaving.
Love it. Yeah, and I will just quickly shout out the current keyboardist because he went to my high school and he's an FOTM, Mike Boguski.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, when you couldn't see any live music, we set up his keyboard in my backyard, and he did this rousing rendition of Diamond Mine on his keyboard, and neighbors were like popping their head over the fences like, is that live music? What a time where it was just such a magical, great afternoon in my backyard, and the whole, the atmosphere in New Toronto filled with Diamond Mine as Mike Boguski played it.
Oh,
it was wild.
Sensational. Wow.
It was.
Very cool.
It was. I got to do more backyard episodes with Mike Boguski and get more jams there. So thank you for correcting the record there. The Bob Roper episode also, there's a great Rush talk in there, and we talk about how Bob Roper sends the debut album by Rush, which is 50 years ago this month.
Wow.
50 years ago, Rush comes out. Named by the drummer's, Rutsy's brother, named the band Rush. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
It's a great story. So, and Rutsy no longer with us. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. And Neil Peart no longer with us, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wow, okay. But this is a story that there's a woman named Donna Halper, and Donna Halper is the music director at the station in Cleveland that Bob Roper sent the Rush debut album to. And Donna Halper is the woman who heard Working Man, liked Working Man, and put it on the air. And Cleveland being a blue-collar town, the people loved Working Man. They were requesting it. And this is sort of the spark that lights the Rush fire. Like Donna Halper putting that song on the air in Cleveland. No Cleveland, no Rush.
Yeah, WMMS. They were a legendary rock station, and Donna was the person. Bob wasn't even working for the band at that time. She was just looking for great rock tracks to play on her station.
Right.
And he sent the album over with, I don't think, a great deal of expectation, but sure enough,
she heard something she liked.
She sure did. Wow.
What a great song. And this is Michael Williams talking about a different artist.
No Cleveland, no Bowie.
But I think absolutely you can apply that to Rush. No Cleveland, no Rush. The rest is history. But all this long-winded build-up is to say, I'm going to have a conversation with Donna Halper.
Oh, that's amazing.
All about this moment, because she listened as well. She loved the Bob Roper. I feel like the people in the industry all listened to the Bob Roper episode and loved it. And if you're looking for Bob Roper deep dives, there's nowhere else to go. I'm literally the only podcast he's ever done. So, well received. Funnily enough, here, but I think, okay, I was at the Harris Institute yesterday. I biked over. It's at like Sherbourne in Richmond, because I had to deliver a palma pasta lasagna to Jane Harbury because she couldn't carry it. It's very heavy, and she was taking the TTC. So I delivered it to the Harris Institute yesterday. I took a photo. I tweeted it. Hey, here's Jane Harbury getting her palma pasta lasagna. She told a story, Jane, when she was on Toronto Mike. She talked about being gifted these tickets to Blue Jays games, and she would get a ticket every spring to see a Blue Jay game. Good seats, of course. And she would go with Bob Roper. Like they would go together, Bob Roper. And no one wanted to tell me this mystery person who was gifting the tickets. But I've done some homework. I'm ready to announce it now. You ready, Kevin Shea?
I'm ready. Let's hear.
Some guy named Geddy Lee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I don't even know if Jane, I hope Jane's not listening. Don't listen, Jane. And Jane didn't tell me this. So Jane never revealed the source. But this mysterious person that neither wanted to name, and he knows who he is, and we're grateful and all this. So I had to do a little digging, Kevin.
Good for you.
Geddy Lee is the saint. And Geddy Lee, of course, thanking Bob Roper for sending that album to Donna Halper, who will soon be an FOTM like you. So that conversation coming very soon for all the Rush fanatics. We're going to get the real story about working man breaking in Cleveland, thanks to Donna Halper and Bob Roper.
Well done, Mike. That's great stuff. Well, Getty had great. So I don't know Getty. I've met him once, I think, or maybe a couple times. But he had great baseball tickets. He's a huge baseball fan,
right,
and has followed the Negro Baseball League, which I'm really interested in as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of parallels that way as well.
Well, I got to get Getty Lee on Toronto Mike. That's what you're telling me. If only I knew his lawyer. If only I was friendly. If only his lawyer was an FOTM and I could make that magic happen. Let me see what I can do here. So I'm going to play something that I thought of watching the Juno Awards on Sunday. Did you watch the Junos on Sunday?
I watched some. There was the Leaf game at the same time, but I was back and forth.
Okay, so I'm going to play something I thought of watching. So I thought of you, Kevin, while I was watching this Leaf game, and I'll explain all in a moment, but I have some fresh craft beer for you from Great Lakes Brewery.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
And I did deliver the lasagna to Jane, but I don't have to go to you because you're going to bring it home with you. You're getting a large, it's frozen in my freezer, and you're leaving with that lasagna. You know, I have two. I made sure I got one for our special guest, Jason Wilson, who is not here. So maybe I'll be eating that
There
one.
you go. It'll keep.
It'll keep. I'll stick that in the freezer till I see him. I also want to recommend a great podcast for you, Kevin. It's called the Advantaged Investor Podcast. And if you listen to this podcast, it won't even matter whether you're doing your own investments or you have somebody who manages your financial investments. You're going to get best practices, great tips from wonderful experts and analysts at Raymond James Canada. It's a great free podcast hosted by Chris Cooksey. So you're going to subscribe to the Advantaged Investor Podcast.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Look at that. You're good. You do everything I tell you to do. I love it. So this is another request, which is that you do not throw out the old devices, the old electronics, the old cables you have collecting in your home, Kevin. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, put in your address, and it'll tell you a place near you. You could drop that off to be properly recycled so the chemicals do not end up in our landfill. You got your marching orders?
That's important.
It's important. And make sure I grab one of these. Here, let me do it now quickly. Going off mic for a second. It's a measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home, so you can...
I use it every day.
Well, you got...
I truly do.
Okay. You got another one now, just in case
you. Thank you very much.
Just in case. Okay, let me kick out. I could do hours with you on Attic Records alone.
Oh, dear.
Sadly, we've lost both founders now.
Yes.
I broke the news to Jane on that episode about Tom Williams.
Really?
She had no idea, and I felt awful because I thought, so she starts talking about him, and I said something to the effect of sadly, we lost both him and Almer, and I could tell instantly, she had no idea. And she's like, what do you mean? And then I just felt awful. You never want to break that news to somebody, right?
A tragic story, and because the music industry is so incestuous, they certainly would be friends or certainly acquaintances through the years
she said
as well.
she just saw him at Hughes Room. She still works close with Hughes Room, and then it's she was going to invite him to something at Hughes Room, and then she learns he's no longer with us. Al Mayer did appear on Toronto Mike, so that was fantastic. So he was an FOTM. We lost him, of course. Mm-hmm. But here's the song I'm going to play that I was thinking about when I was watching FOTM Maestro Fresh-Wes at the Junos.
Drop the needle!
Is that taking you back, Kevin?
It sure does.
Wow.
One of our domestic signings, Haywire, out of Prince Edward Island.
And ours, you mean Attic, right?
Attic
I
Records,
could, like
yes.
I said, I would like to do like a 5-hour episode with you one day on Attic Records here. I feel like I've done it a few times. A lot to tell. Okay, so Haywire, they're from East Coast, right? Where
Yeah,
Haywire
Prince Edward
from?
Island.
Prince Edward Island.
Right.
That's as far as you go over there. Okay, so Haywire is an Attic Records signing. This was one of their big Much Music hits. I remember Dance Desire.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Maestro Fresh-Wes. Well deserved, okay? I have all the time in the world for Maestro Fresh-Wes. Big fan of this guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And I have the story from multiple, I've had Al Mayer on, and I had you on, and Steve Waxman. You ever heard of that guy?
I sure
I've
have.
had Maestro Fresh-Wes on. Okay, so I've covered this from all angles. I think no one's covered this story more than me, but I love it so much. So I'm actually going to fade it down elegantly here, and I'm going to play this the first 5 seconds again. This is, of course, that same song I just played. This is Dance Desire by Haywire.
Drop the needle!
Okay, that's it. That's all you need, the first 5 seconds here. And now I will play the second big hit from Maestro Fresh-Wes. Very cultured.
Fresh-Wes. The symphony is in full effect. Let your backbone slide. Let it slip, let the rhythm rip while my lyrics leave my lips laid.
You can rap with me, Kevin. I know the words. I know you know the words.
Performing on stage, your name rings the bell from state to state, province to province, and you can't escape. Here's radius of margin, cruising, barging, blowing away blockades and still charging. Off the crowd while I introduce ya. Says the name, they get looser. Maestro with magnitude. That's longer than the lines of latitude. Going tropic to tropic, topic to topic. Yo, are you ready for the drop? Then drop it.
There's Haywire, okay? That Drop the Needle. That's pulled directly from Dance Desire. That's it. That's a sample.
It's quite a story, isn't it?
Okay,
Boy,
so
oh
to
boy.
set the table, and then I'll shut up because everybody's like, let Kevin talk. This is his story. So, because I lived this in real time, okay? Let Your Backbone Slide just takes off. It was all over my high school. It was big, and this is 89, so I am like 15 years old or something. I'm kind of starting to dive into the world of hip-hop, and I literally said these words. I think Maestro must have heard me because he ended up naming an album this or whatever. Nah, this kid can't be from Canada. Okay, I think I said that, okay? I'm like, what do you mean this guy's from Toronto? Like, this is amazing. Before I knew he was from Toronto, I was loving Let Your Backbone Slide. That goes nuts. We could reiterate the story. It's been documented in Toronto like 100 times. He's on, in fact, Michael Williams ties in this story. He takes credit at Electric Circus for introducing Maestro to Stevie B. Right. Stevie B, LMR, I believe, in the United States is the label that signs Maestro. Meanwhile, there's a second single that's coming out off Symphony in Effect. It's taken off. It's called Drop the Needle. It's got that great sample from Haywire's Dance Desire. This is where I want you, Kevin, to pick up the story. So,
Well, it's actually more of a Steve Waxman story. I wasn't with the label at the time, but although I did come in and join the
don't
label
let
later
the
on.
facts come on.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not Robert Law. Do I look like Robert Lawson? Okay,
But-
you are adjacent to Attic at all times, and this is an
No,
Attic
for
story.
sure.
But Steve Waxman has probably told the story to me already. But let's hear it again.
Well, and Steve is a dear, dear friend. And so he was working at Attic at the time. I was at Warner's. We were both going to the dance pools, which was a collection of club DJs. And there were several of these dance pool organizations. So on Saturday mornings, for example, all of the record reps would come out and play their dance material for the club DJs. And so Steve was telling me about this track that he was quite interested in. It was the Maestro Fresh-Wes track. But the way that it came to Attic was strange because he had been at a dance pool meeting where he had heard the track and he heard the Haywire drop in it.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
Well, exactly.
If you know Dance Desire, you can't miss it.
Yeah, and so he went back to Al Mayer, the president of Attic, and said, there's a track out there, a rap track out there from this Scarborough kid, and he uses some of the material from Haywire. And Al, wait a minute, Al was all business at that point. Hang on, we got to figure this out. So they negotiated, and what ended up happening was, in return for being able to use the drop without having to pay for it, we got to sign Maestro for distribution in Canada. And when I say we, I meant Attic. And so that's the way he ended up on Attic Records and was with us for 5 or 6 albums, I think. And and just was a great guy to deal with. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. I took him to his first Maple Leaf game. He always thanked me for that, and he was on the ice just not that long ago doing the anthem and doing a special set between first and second period as well. But just a wonderful guy, now living in St. John, New Brunswick.
Absolutely. So, Maestro Fresh-Wes, I'm holding in my hand. I bought this in 1989. This is the 12-inch single for Let Your Backbone Slide. I bought it. And he signed it in 2016 when he visited the first time. But I'm looking at the back of it now. Okay, so we've got here at the bottom of this 12-inch, which I bought in 89, there's a logo for LMR. Oh. Do you know what LMR stands for?
I don't know.
Lethman Moelis Records.
Okay.
I did not know that either. I'm just reading it right now. Okay, but then I see it there. Attic.
There we go.
The Attic logo.
There
so
you
Attic
go.
had... so how did it sell? Like Symphony in Effect. I mean, I had a copy. So you can add one right there. But like, how did Maestro sell back then?
Well, so it ended up being a double platinum album, which was 200,000 copies in Canada. But kudos to Steve Waxman once again, because at that time, Top 40 Radio was not playing rap music. It was certainly anathema to all of the listeners, they felt. And Steve was able to convince CFTR Radio here in Toronto, Sharon Taylor, the programmer at the time.
FOTM Sharon Taylor.
To try the song out. And it started to take off from there. So there were a number of top 40 stations who dipped their toe in the water and started to play Let Your Backbone Slide, and then it started to take off. It was also a great video, too, so that all worked out, too.
Of course, Dwight Drummond's in that thing.
Yep, for sure. And so it ended up being a top 40 hit, sold a ton of records through the clubs, through Top 40 Radio as well, and ended up selling 200,000 albums, which was just unprecedented for a Canadian rap album to sell in that volume without any predecessors who could open some doors was astounding. So that's why they call him the Godfather.
No, well earned. We love Mishi Me on this show too. I think
sure.
Mishi Me fantastic, but Let Your Backbone Slide opens that door. And that, 200,000 units of that. And, you can't do that without Top 40 Radio in this country,
That's
right?
For sure,
and, I was listening to CFTR at the time. And, of course, listening to Let Your Backbone Slide on that station and watching on Much Music. And I was all in. I'm like, this kid is from Canada. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And subsequent, there were, A&M signed Kish shortly thereafter. A number of different...
Love Kish, by the way.
Started to get
Kish
at it
does,
as well.
I know, this is the real talk too, like when, we should talk about this. But Kish has been on Toronto Mic'd and loved it so much. But he says, I forget the number now, but he says at the end of it, when all said and done, from Order from Chaos, which was his big album I owned, he said he's something like, I made like $16.37 or something like that. Like the Kish story. He's a successful voiceover actor in California now, but he basically made nothing from his music career here in Canada before he went to California.
I don't know how much Maestro would make. It's none of my business anyway, but I would have to think that when you start looking at advance royalties, the recording of the album, the videos, the marketing that went into it, I don't know that he made a whole lot of money at the time.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there even, maybe Blue Rodeo and the Tragically Hip are exceptions here, but can our artists who are big in Canada but not in any other markets, are they able to make a great living in this country, or is it a very modest hustle?
Well, not from album sales, not from radio play necessarily, but it's the touring that would help them out, certainly now anyway. But I think it took Blue Rodeo years, even though they were a monster band at the time, it took them several years to finally get out of royalty hell and they could start making some money from there, or advance royalty hell and go from there, just because the videos, the marketing all cost a great deal of money, and they go against the ledger towards the band. So the record company isn't on the hook for that.
No, you're right. And the more I learn about that, the more it seems a little crooked here. I mean, it feels like these are just loans, and then exorbitant loans that are difficult to pay back. No wonder these artists pursue so heavily U.S. success. Like this, the difference between being I'm thinking of my buddies in Sloan, right? Can you think of a bigger rock band in this country? But unfortunately for their bank accounts and their accountants, only really big in one country, this one we're in right now. And those guys, you'll see Chris Murphy taking the subway, and they're living like you and I. Maybe not as good as Kevin. Who knows?
I don't know about that.
But that's our biggest rock band that didn't have success outside of this country.
And I think everybody predicted that Sloan was going to blow up because it was right during the grunge era.
Well, can we talk here? So before we say goodbye, I know you said you have an hour, so we have like 5 more minutes or so here.
Whatever works.
Okay. Let's revisit your work of Nirvana, because in 1991 they put out. Now again, they had an album before that called Bleach, but that was with Sub Pop, right?
Yes.
And then now this is their big major label debut, Nevermind. Okay, everyone, if you're listening to this show, you're well aware of what happens with Nirvana in 1991. But remind us, because this came up recently on Toronto Mike. You wearing a diaper? What's going on, Kevin?
Well, sometimes promotion people will do any manner of things to get their records played. So nobody was playing anything from the Nirvana album. There was certainly some college play and that sort of thing.
To be specific, because I was listening to 102.1 at the time.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there was a period of time before 102.1 would play Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but
Robert
yes,
Lawson,
yes,
come
there
on
was.
in, Robert.
Yes,
No.
exactly. You know, they would have been an early adopter for sure. But we were trying to get rock radio because we just heard this track "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and we thought it was a magical track. But it just wasn't like anything else that was being played on the radio at the time. It was all Cherry Pie by Warrant and bands
Poison,
of that. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. The hair bands of the time.
Unskinny Bop. I remember that one.
Exactly. There we go. And so we had this song, and I thought, okay, how can we get it played? And we sat in our marketing meetings and discussed it. And they said, well, Kevin, you're overseeing the promotion department. What do you think? I said, well, we got to take it to rock radio. But you know what? I think I might be able to get Show 'em in Montreal to play it. They are the most adventurous of the programmers. Let me see what I can do. And I've got an idea. It's wacky, but let me throw it at you. I think what I'll do is play on the front cover of the Nirvana album. And it's a baby swimming towards a dollar bill on a hook. But I think if I were to go to the station from 6 until 10 in the morning, I will get all of the staff on their way into work that day. I'll dress like a baby. I'll put a baby blanket outside of the radio station. I'll wear a diaper and a soother and booties and a bonnet and a big sign, and I think I'll put "Smells Like Teen Spirit." This baby needs a home on Show 'em. And I'm going to play the track nonstop from 6 in the morning until 10. And they all looked at me and said, if you think it'll work, go for it. But they shook their head. You know, different people had done stunts in the past, but this was a little bit on the larger side of things. So I did exactly that. I flew into Montreal the night before and asked them for a wake-up call for 5 o'clock at the hotel, and that was fine. And the alarm I didn't get a call. And all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock, and oh my God! So I dress really quickly, have my shower, throw on the baby stuff, get a taxi over. But I go to the front desk, and in my broken French, I'm trying to reprimand them because I never got a phone call. And of course, they're trying to keep a straight face because there's an adult in a baby diaper,
like
and
Barney
whatever.
Gumble, yeah.
So I whipped over to Show 'em FM, set myself up, and started playing the cassette. And it was just a nonstop showing of Smells Like Teen Spirit. Well,
wow.
That was great. I see the staff coming in. What are you doing, Shea? And who's this guy out front? But what was magical was the fact that Dawson College was around the corner. And as the students were on their way into school, they wanted to find out what was going on. They hear the track. They love the track. And so they started to congregate. And as they congregated, more of their friends did too. Next thing you knew, the street was blocked off. That led to traffic copters saying there's a traffic blockage on Green Avenue in Westmount, and we don't know what's going on, but we'll find out. And then the newspaper reporters came over to find out what the problem was, and they see a man with a diaper on and want to know the story behind the story. So it ended up working out very well without meaning to. Went back to Music Plus, which was the parallel to Much Music, and they did the story on their news show. And of course the radio station's talking about the traffic blockage. Anyway, the program director from Show 'em came out, Ian McLean, and Ian said, look, Kevin, I appreciate your passion on this project, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to strike a deal with you. If we're going to play it one play on this evening's show with Too Tall Wagner, and if it gets calls, we will continue to play it. But if we get complaints, you are never to mention the word Nirvana ever to us ever again. I said, okay, great. So I went back to the hotel and changed. I ended up getting pneumonia.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, it was late November in Montreal or early November in Montreal. I can't remember.
Wow, the things
exactly.
you'll do for Kurt Cobain.
And they played the track, and the phones blew up. And I would have to think that a lot of them were the Dawson College students who got cassette singles that I was handing out at the same time as playing it, and saw this guy out there and liked the song. And anyway, it blew up, and they added the song.
Wow.
And subsequent to that, Q107 and City FM in Winnipeg, CFOX in Vancouver added it. Those were the majors, and then the secondary markets added it as well. And it ended up being okay. So I wasn't the only one. It started to blow up in the States as well, not because of a guy in a diaper, but it started to blow up there too. But
And
anyway.
Speaking of great videos, what a great video that was.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Perfect storm there. Okay, so before, again, you'll be back, Kevin, because I literally have hours and stuff I want to talk to you about. You'll be back. But, we did touch off the top. We talked a bit about Motley Crue. But I want to ask you about one of my favorite hair metal, rock and roll bands, Guns and fucking Roses. You don't mind if I swear on my own show, do you? Okay.
Fine by me.
So Guns and fucking Roses, okay, you're at MCA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me how this works, because they're Geffen? Like, what's going on? How are you? So
Geffen was distributed in Canada by MCA.
Okay, that's a good detail.
Yeah.
Okay. That
And
makes sense.
MCA was just going through the ownership change to become Universal Music.
Okay.
So I had come from Warner Music, where I did national promotion, and I went over to MCA to be the director of national promotion there. And one of the things I think that MCA liked was the fact that Geffen had been on Warner's just before that, and I had been the national promo for Geffen at that point. Now Geffen was being picked up, and that was a major label with Elton John and Cher and Don Henley and Guns N' Roses and you name it. They had a lot of big acts at the time, and they had the Tragically Hip on the other side on the domestic signing too, and I'd worked with them as well. So anyway, I got hired by MCA, and we get this album, and it's got Mike Klink is the producer, and it looks like it's going to be huge. And we listened to it, and it sounded amazing, and we put it out, and it was just the magical touch. It was just the right song at the right time, but it took some time. Joey Vendetta, we mentioned from Q107 and the Power Factory, he was an early adopter.
And this album, of course, is Appetite for Destruction.
Right. Sorry, yes, I should.
No, I just want to make sure the listenership knows, because, man, I should run around the corner and show you the pennant I still have. I bought it in 88 at a head shop downtown, and it's a Appetite for Destruction pennant. I still have it.
And radio adopted it immediately. It was great. We did very, very well with Welcome to the Jungle.
Right.
But then the tour came through. I think boy, if I have it right, I might not. Playing with the Cult at the C&E
That
Grandstand.
sounds right to me.
I think it was. But the band's reputation turned out to be a forerunner of what they were all about. We had a number of radio programmers that we were bringing back to see the show. They watched the show, then they wanted to come back and meet the band, and we never did get the lead singer ever to come back. We waited for hours. Slash came out for a little while, and Duff, the bass player, came out for a little while, but we never got Axl to come out at all. And everybody wanted to meet Axl. He just refused to come out. So all of these programmers went home, got their album signed by either Duff or Slash, but that was it. But the album was a monstrous album, and it was just the opening of their monstrous career for a few years anyway.
What an album.
Yeah.
These are big, Nevermind, Appetite for Destruction. These are such big albums that you're involved with. Like it must be easier to push these great albums. And I'm sure there's, how many steaming piles of shit have you had to try to shovel into radio stations, right?
Well, you have to prioritize, and there are some that are going to be really big, some that already have track records, and then there are others that you just think are magical, and you go forward from there. And that was one of them. Guns N' Roses was too heavy for a lot of the rock stations, so they would day part it to play just in the evenings. And then as it started to find its legs,
Sweet Child of Mine, I feel, was like their balladly, accessible song. Welcome to the Jungle, it hits you hard, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But Sweet Child of Mine is sort of, it's kind of sweet and ballad, moms are digging it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They still are, by the way. I feel like that's a song today that you play that right now, and everyone's singing along to "Sweet Child of Mine."
And when November Rain came out, that wasn't that album.
No,
It
that
came
was the double
subsequent
album.
to it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But then I thought it's way too long,
Yeah.
But we released it to Adult Contemporary and Top 40 with the wish that maybe a few Adult Contemporary stations would play it, and it turned out to be a monstrous track in all formats, rock.
But again,
Top
video
40,
played a key role, right?
Absolutely.
Like video can't play a role anymore, I don't think.
It was $1 million video. It was
Yeah.
amazing video.
November Rain, wow. Like I remember buying, that was Use Your Illusion 1 and
Yes,
2. And
yeah.
that was back when I had to have, like that album, I had to have first day of
sure.
sale. Yeah. But unlike Appetite for Destruction, you're not there first day because you don't know about them yet. Like it's like, right? You need it's the follow-up hits that you're there. It's like you're not there for 10 first day, but you're there for Versus first day.
We can never overestimate the importance of Much Music during that era. They really, really did a job for a number of the bands that we've talked about: Blue Rodeo, the Tragically Hip, certainly Motley Crue,
Aerosmith.
and Aerosmith too. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and do you want to take us home by just sharing a little bit about how are you, Kevin Shea, connected to Aerosmith? I mean, I have a note here that you were taking Aerosmith to see like a Aerosmith tribute band.
Yeah, so we did some interviews with Much Music. Denise Donlin playing pool with Steve Perry and Joe Perry rather, and Steve Tyler.
Right.
And the day went very, very well, and they were very pleased with the day, and we hit it off quite well. And they said, "Listen, we want to go to. We got a couple days off before we play live here. Is there any way we can get to a gym?" And I said, "Well, my girlfriend's gym is just around the corner. I think we can arrange it if you're into it." They said, "We just don't want a lot of people to hang all over us. We just want to work out, and then maybe later in the day we can get together and have some dinner or do something." I said, "Well, that sounds great." So we arranged to go to the gym. It was on Young Street, right near Bloor. I can't remember the name of it, but it's long gone now. Sure. And they worked out there. I was there, as was my girlfriend of the time, and we worked out together. And Joe Perry especially was really an avid gym rat. And so we did that, and they said, "That's great. Listen, what's to do in the city? What can we do that would be fun and different, Kevin?" And I said, "Oh, geez, I don't know. There's so many things we could do. We could go for dinner if you want, or we could, you know what? Here's an idea. This is probably ridiculous, but there's a band called Toys in the Attic. They're an Aerosmith tribute band, and they're playing at the Hard Rock Cafe. Would you guys be open to going to something like that?" And they looked at each other, and the smiles were massive. They said, "We've never seen an Aerosmith tribute band. We gotta go."
Yeah.
But Kevin, we're dry at this time. We're not drinking at all. So we have to have a special section and only Perrier. I said, "Well, I'll see what I can do." So I talked to the folks at the Hard Rock. They said, "Are you kidding me?" Okay. I said, "You got to keep it quiet. We can't make a big deal about it. I don't know if it's going to be all the band or just some of them, but we have to have a stanchioned off area for them only and some Perrier." They said, "Well, we don't carry Perrier." I said, "If I buy a couple of cases across the street and bring it over, you bet, that'd be fine." So I did exactly that. We had the limo. We brought them over to the Hard Rock Cafe, and the band was already on the stage.
But does Toys in the Attic know that
No,
Aerosmith is there?
Not at that point, no.
Okay.
We snuck them in, got in the back, found their place. They're enjoying their time. And then the word started to spread that, wait a minute. And the nice thing, too, the funny thing actually to me was that Toys in the Attic was already playing tracks from the new album. And Perry said, This is amazing. They're already playing our new material. And Steven Tyler said, "Is that lead singer supposed to look like me? Because he's ugly like you, Perry." And they're laughing back and forth and whatever. And they had a few Perriers and they were there. It was just the two guys from the band, but some of their affiliate help, as it were, assistants. And they stayed for a little while. But then as soon as the word started to spread around, they said, "We got to get out of here." So okay, go. So we never did get a chance to introduce Toys in the Attic to Aerosmith, which would have been nice. But Aerosmith loved it, and they loved the fact that they were already playing the new album.
If I'm the lead singer of Toys in the Attic, and I hear Steve Tyler is in the audience, like, I'm gonna need that diaper you were wearing
No
for
kidding,
Nirvana,
absolutely.
Right? And I can't imagine what that's like. And it sounds like they didn't disappoint. It sounds like a fantastic, night with Aerosmith, and then you got this great story. You can live off this story for the rest of your life, Kevin.
And get free pasta as a result. Thank you, Palmas.
So is that one of your 100 stories?
It is indeed,
Okay, I
yes.
can't wait to dive into it. I wish I could tell people to buy a copy, but no, you got to be one of the special 100 people. So 100 grades of Shea. Great title. And it's so well made. Like,
Yeah, just
impressed.
self-published and just had some fun doing it.
I'm going to do this.
A
I'm
gift.
going to write
Oh,
a
you
book,
should.
and I'm just going to give you a copy.
Oh, I would love that. That'd be great. Very good.
Thanks for doing this. Again, if you're listening at home, Mr. Wilson, Jason Wilson, this was your episode, and we'll get you back for a one-on-one. But Kevin, always love talking to you, man. You got the music stuff. We could talk Leafs. We could talk Hockey Hall of Fame. You're all over the place. You're still working with the Hockey Hall of Fame.
I sure am. Yep. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Can you do anything about? I know there's one of the Stanley Cups is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, right? Can we get Phil Pritchard to come by?
I've been working on that for a year, and I'll start working again.
Why is he
Boy,
so hard to get?
Just he's on the road so much. I think that's the biggest part. He's actually somewhere now. He's not even around in the office today, so I'll have to catch up with him later on.
Well, that might be the closest Toronto gets to a Stanley Cup. So we got to get Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup. We got to get him on Toronto Mike. In all seriousness, in this neck of the woods, the closest we've ever got in my lifetime is Dave Boland did he brought the Stanley Cup when he went with Chicago to the Blue Goose in Mimico, and that was pretty much the closest we all got to seeing the Stanley Cup.
That's right. Jeez.
Thank you, Dave Boland, and thank you, Kevin Shea. And that brings us to the end of our 1,459th show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Toronto Mike. What's the best way? I follow you in a few different social media places, and I love your stories, Kevin. But is there one place you would send people to, I don't know, to learn more about you and everything?
Just on Facebook. That's my principal social media.
That's where you get these great stories, so I can document them and get Kevin over here to pick at those threads. Thank you. And thank you to the great Robert Lawson, who's always in my mind now when I talk to somebody. Like, if Bob Roper gets it wrong, Kevin Shea will come in and get it right. So always seeking the truth here on Toronto Mike. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, don't leave without your lasagna, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Raymond James Canada, the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team. Kevin, I want to see you.
May 12th. I'm looking forward to
And
it.
you can see your old bud Rick Emmett.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to witness that moment. I'm very excited. And Blair Packham's going to drive him there. So
He's a great guy, too.
He's a great guy, too. See you all. So I'm recording this afternoon with Donna Halper about Rush's Working Man and Bob Roper, but I'm actually not dropping that today. So who is the next episode of Toronto Mike? It is Sean Clark. Okay, good. The return of Sean Clark. He's a great singer-songwriter. He'll be here Thursday. And then Friday, it's Toast with Rob Bruce and Bob Willett. That's a holiday, by the way, and we'll be doing that at, noon at live.torontomike.com if you want to join us. See you all then.
Everything is rosy and green. Well, I've kissed you in France and I've kissed you in Spain, and I've kissed you in places I better not name, and I've seen the sun go down on Sacré-Cœur.